Hi guys, you're welcome. Alright, so in today's class, we'll make use of this crepe fabric to make that beautiful dress you saw on my thumbnail. Okay, so that line right there where my tape is placed, that is my starting line. And I am just going to go ahead and take down my points. So I just took down my bust point, my half length, and the length of my dress. Okay, so this dress will be having some gathers at the end of the dress. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is the length of my dress is just going to be from my shoulder to the point where this fabric will end, and then the gathers I'll be making use of a different color of crepe to achieve that. Okay, so I am taking my chalk and I am ruling out those lines. I'm going to make this to be as visible as possible, okay, because the material shifts a lot, so I had to really try to make it obvious. So I'm just taking down my points. My bust point was what I just ruled. I am ruling down my half length and then the length of my dress. For this dress, we won't be making use of our hip measurements, and that is because it's going to be a free A-line dress. Okay, so from my starting point, I am taking down my shoulder measurement divided by 2. My shoulder is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, so I'm just marking that down. And then from there I'm coming down by 1 inch, and that 1 inch is just going to help me achieve the shoulder slope. Okay, so from there I'm taking down my armhole measurements, and to get that you just divide your bust measurements by 6 plus 1.5 and you get your right armhole measurement. So that is what I'm doing. I am going to go ahead to rule that out, all right, with a straight line. I hope you guys can see, because this fabric really, I tried as much as possible to make my chalk visible. Okay, but basically what I'm doing right now is just my basic bodies. I'm just drawing out my basic bodies pattern. I'm just drafting out my basic bodies pattern. Okay, so connect that line. Okay, so I am placing my tape at my starting point to get my shoulder measurement. I'm also placing my shoulder measurement at my armhole line. That is because it's just going to help me get an accurate vertical line. Okay, so I've gone ahead to connect that. All right, so next I'm going to impute my neck depth and width. So the neck width I'm working with is 3.5 and the neck depth is 3 inches. All right, and that will be for my front neck depth and width. Remember, the neck width for the front and the back should always be the same, but the depth can differ. Okay, so I've gone ahead to connect that, and I'm just connecting my shoulder slope right now. I'm creating my shoulder slope rather. Okay, so that is that. I hope you guys can see this. So from that point where my shoulder slope ended, I am dividing the measurements I have there by 2. I'm marking that out, and then from that point I am just going to go in by 0.5 and then I'll connect. Please, just in case this is your first video, this is the first time watching my video, I have a detailed tutorial on how to draft a basic bodice pattern. Okay, just in case you're confused about what I'm doing right now, please just go ahead. I'll put the link in the description box below, so just go ahead and watch that video and come back. You won't be so confused. So what I'm doing right now at my armhole line is I'm dividing my bust by 4. The bust measurement I'm working with is 36 divided by 4 is 9. I'm just imputing that 9 inches at my armhole line and my bust line, and I'm connecting my armhole. I'm going ahead to connect my armhole right now before connecting that point I just marked out. Okay, so I'm connecting the bust measurement I just marked out, and that is that. So next, okay, the trick about this dress is, if you do not want yours to be fitted, go ahead and impute your hip measurement. Go ahead and impute your half length measurement. That's your round half length. I imputed mine in this dress because I didn't want mine to be so free. Okay, so I used my half length is 28 divided by 4 is 7.5. I marked that down. Okay, but if you do not want yours to be fitted, although mine wasn't so fitted, it was free, but it wasn't that big. That's because I was trying to avoid that. So, but if you want yours to be free, please, from your bust point, make sure you add at least 1 inch. Okay, just so it will be free from your bust point downwards, and then from that point just go ahead and connect it all the way to the length of the dress. But if you want yours to be fitted, go ahead and connect your half length, and of course still add your 1 inch extra allowance before your seam allowance. That way it will not be so fitted and it will not be so big. Okay, so for those that want theirs to be a bit fitted, remember to, you can also go ahead and add your hip measurement. That's what I did, the hip measurement line, and then impute your hip measurement and add 1 inch. Okay, but I just use that to explain, because I am going to be doing next is I'm just going to connect my points after taking your body measurements and marking them down. I'm going to connect my points. Okay, I told you I won't be making use of the hip measurement, so from that point I am just going to connect it all the way to the end of the dress, as to the length of the dress. So that is it, guys. After connecting, please remember to pin it down. Like I said, if you're a beginner, I would advise to make use of an Ankara fabric. Do not use a crepe fabric, do not use a chiffon fabric. They shift a lot, okay, and they are not easy to work with. So I would just advise you start with an Ankara fabric. This dress also looks very beautiful with an Ankara fabric. All right, so start with that before you gradually start making use of your crepe fabric. So before cutting this though, I would advise you pin them down. Please pin them down because it's going to move a lot. So what I'm doing right now is I am just cutting. Just watch the parts I'm cutting out. So I've gone ahead to cut and I'm pinning them down because, like I said, they move a lot. Okay, so after cutting it out, I've taken out the other parts of, and you can see what it looks like. So this is the actual shape of the dress. All right. So if you don't want yours to have that sharp edge, from that point, your hip point, just go ahead and connect straight down. That was what I was trying to explain, but I won't be using that. Okay, so here we'll be drafting out the back pattern. What we did was I just went ahead to place my front pattern on my back pattern. I know you guys will not, I know this isn't so visible, but once I'm done cutting it out, you'll see. So the back pattern is slightly different from the front pattern, and the difference is just the neckline and the armhole. So for the neckline, I went down by 1 inch. I just went ahead to cut it out, and for my neck to be able to pass in freely, I am going to go ahead and slit it open by about 4 inches. And then the neckline is, the armhole is also slightly different. Instead of going in by 0.5, I just went down and cut it straight. But if you're confused, please go back to my video and watch how to draft your basic bodice pattern. Okay, so this is that for the dress. So here we'll be learning how to draft the sleeve. So what I'm doing right now is my armhole, my round armhole is 16 divided by 2 is 8. Remember, I made use of 8 on my pattern, so I have to make use of 8 here too. And then my cap sleeve is 4 inches, and how I got that 4 inches was that I divided my bust measurement by 12 plus 0.5. So go ahead and connect. I've gone ahead to connect my round armhole and my cap sleeve to connect that, and then the length of my sleeve is obviously going to be 22 inches, but I made it 19 because I'll be making use of 4 inches of gathers. All right, so I'm going ahead to mark out my 19 inches, or I made it 18 rather, and then I'm connecting that. And then my round armhole measurement, I am going to take down that measurement down there plus 1 inch. Okay, so I've gone ahead to mark that, and I'll just connect it from my cap line to that point. So go ahead and connect yours like so. Okay, so next what we're going to be doing right now is dividing that measurement we have there by 2. Remember, it was 8 divided by 2 is 4, and then that line we just made, we're also going to divide that line by 2. I have 4 there, divided by 2 is 2, and I'll just connect those 3 points now together. If you're confused, just watch what I'm doing. Okay, so that point where I just pointed out, I'll be dividing that point by 2 as well, and I'll also be dividing the upper one by 2 as well. If you don't really get what I'm doing right now, do not worry, I'll drop a proper video on how to draft your basic sleeve. So from that point I went up by 0.5, and from this point I'm going down by 0.5 as well. You can go down by 0.25, and then please make use of the dotted line method to connect your lines before you go ahead and trace it out. All right, so there you can see my sleeve is forming already. So remember, the sleeve has a particular style. Okay, so what I'm doing is, from that point I went in by, you can go in by 1 inch, but I decided to go in by 1.5 inches, and then you just measure how long, where you want from the fold, you just want to measure how long you want the sleeve to be before your gather starts. Okay, so for me, I think I went with 9 inches. Okay, and then from that point just go ahead and connect. You can draw a straight line, but this line is really not needed. So from that point, just go ahead and draw out your curve. From that point you marked your 9 inches down to that 1.5 you marked downwards. Okay, so like I said, always use your dotted line method so you get an accurate guide on how to go about your curve before you go ahead to cut out your curve. So just watch carefully at the parts I'm cutting out. Okay, so after you cut out, when cutting this out on your fabric, remember to put it on fold. Okay, so before cutting out on fabric, we'll go ahead and sew our neckline to get our neckline done. So I didn't know my video wasn't playing. My phone wasn't on record when I started this facing, so the cutting of the facing and how I attached this beginning, that's for the front facing, wasn't here. I'm so sorry about that. I'll try to make another video on how to do that, explain that better. Okay, but you can just go ahead and use a bias tape to finish up your neckline. So what I did just now is I've attached my front neckline facing, and I am notching it. After notching, you can go ahead and stop stitch, but if you do not want to stop stitch, you can just notch, turn it around and iron properly so it can sit down like so. But for me, I am going to stop stitch because stop stitching helps me iron easier and faster. So just do whatever that works for you guys. Okay, so like I said, I didn't explain the front neckline facing, but I am going to be explaining the back neckline facing because my recording got that, my phone got that on record. So I am just top stitching on the wrong side of my facing. I am not stop stitching on my dress. I am top stitching on my facing. I am just pulling it out. I'm top stitching on it, and then I lock my stitch and cut that out. So this is my back facing. Remember I said I cut it open by 4 to 5 inches. So I am just placing the facing right side facing the right side of my main piece, and I am just going to go ahead and sew it around like so. I won't sew all the way to the end, guys. When you get close to the end, leave your needle in, turn it, continue sewing. Okay, like so. When you get to that end, leave your needle in because it's supposed to be a V, like a V. Leave your needle in, make sure it's in, and then you continue sewing. And then when you get to that point, you will not get to the end. Leave your needle in, turn it around, and then you sew like so. And that is that, guys. While doing this, please remember to pin down your fabric top notch, and then before you turn. So this is what it looks like after it has been turned. Next, I am just going to be joining my shoulder. So this is me joining my shoulders. Go ahead and join your shoulder measurement. Sorry guys, just go ahead and join your shoulders together. So here I've gone ahead to place my pattern on my fabric, and I've cut out my sleeve. So I'm going to open this up so you see what it looks like. Remember I told you to put it on fold, so when opened up, this is what it looks like. Okay, so I have two here, of course, for the two sleeves. So I'm going to fold it like so, right side facing each other, and then I'll just go ahead and sew it down by 1/2 inch. And like I always say, please pin down. When you pin down, it's usually easier. It makes your sewing faster and easier. So I'm going to sew it down like so. I've gone ahead to join my sides, the sides of my dress. I've gone ahead to join the both sides all the way to the end. Okay, and then for the hem, please remember to trim before you join your gathers to it. So next, what I'm going to be doing is I'll take the hem of my dress, take my tape all around it to confirm how many inches I have. I had 62.2 inches or 0.5 inches. I am going to times that by 2, and then I will cut it out. The result I get, I'll cut it out on a long strip of fabric and times it by 2 or 3. The weight is 6 inches. I've gone ahead to hem the lower part of that fabric, and then the upper part is where I'm going to be gathering by the number I got after timesing it by 2 or 3. So after that, guys, I also cut the same long strip of fabric for the sleeve. Remember, it's also going to have gathers. I just took my tape around it, took the measurements, and I cut a long strip of fabric, gathered it, and attached it to that round hole. So this is what the dress looks like after it has been attached. That's the gathers for the sleeve I spoke to you guys about. So that is exactly what it looks like on both sleeves. You can see how nice and beautiful it looks. Okay, and then for the lower parts, that is what it looks like. So if you've watched my video this far, please do not forget to like, share, and please subscribe to this channel, because your subscription actually encourages me to drop more videos. So please go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like, share, subscribe guys, subscribe. And that is it, guys. We've come to the end of this class, and this is what the final dress looks like. See how beautiful and lovely it is. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in our next class.